Hey guys, welcome back to my small engine repair channel. Today what I'm doing is replacing the drive belt on this Troy-Bilt lawn tractor. These are the machines by Canadian Tire here in Canada and the other big box stores. Now we'll be replacing the main drive belt from the engine to the first pulley. There's actually two drive belts on this machine, as you'll see in the video. And I'll be replacing the longer of the two, so it's the one that goes from the engine to the back. Now on some machines I can get away without totally removing the deck, and sometimes I just remove the front hookup, put it on my lift here, and then have the deck lean down and get under there. But for today I want you guys to see everything well with the camera, so I will completely remove the deck. So on this machine here, you reach down over here and you pull on this lever. It's kind of spring loaded. First of all, make sure that the deck is down. Reach down here, pull on this lever. So sometimes you really have to pull on it like that. There we go. And here's the lever on this side, and it's in there quite tight. So sometimes what I do is I wiggle the deck and it kind of frees up the pin. Now the easy way to get this bar out of here is to push the deck forward. Now at this point you want to remove the belt guard. There's a 1/2 inch bolt up here, and this is how you access that bolt. Now the belt thing will come off. And there we go. Now just pull your deck out. Now, as you saw, the deck was getting caught on something, so it's a good idea to have this all the way up. What that does is it brings up the hangers here that were hooked onto the deck. If you don't put this up, it's going to get caught in the deck, as you just saw. So now this deck should come out easily. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is bring the machine on the lift here. I'm going to jack it up, and it's going to be very easy to access the belt. Okay, now I'm going to crank this up, jack it up. This is the best little lift for a tractor, guys. This is made by Mojack. And I like to throw a cardboard so that I'm not right on the concrete. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys where that belt is. It's basically this belt over here, and you can see it's quite bad. And it kind of looks like this machine has an oil leak of some sort. Now, most of the oil leaks on these machines stem from this little drain plug here. It's all plastic, and sometimes they get loose in the crankcase, so I will tighten this up before the customer gets it back. So now what I'm going to do is remove the bolt that holds the PTO clutch. It's 5/8. Now the best way to remove the PTO bolt here is by using an impact. If you don't have an impact, grab a breaker bar, get it on your bolt, but when you go to remove the bolt, the whole engine will turn, so you will have to kind of hold the engine or block it from turning. You can have somebody hold the flywheel up top where it spins, or if you're able to get some kind of pipe wrench in behind to hold the crankshaft. That's the only way you will stop it from spinning. With the impact, it's really quick because you just go, it's so fast that the engine doesn't have a chance to turn. So you might want to even consider borrowing an impact from a friend if you're doing this. What I'll do before the clutch comes right off is I'm going to disconnect it from over here. Now the best way to get these out is just pry this here up. And just hold on to the clutch as the bolt comes off. And luckily it's coming off quite easily. Here's a washer. And here's what the pulley looks like. It's all damaged. I can see exactly why they brought this machine in for the belt replacement. They did the one smaller belt at the back, as you will see later, but they didn't do the main belt because they couldn't get the pulley off and they damaged it in the process. So what I'm going to do now is basically cut the belt right off. Then I will heat this up with acetylene, drill some holes, put a puller, and show you how that's done. Now the reason I removed the belt is so that I can have more room here around the pulley. Here's a good look. Okay, what I'm going to do first is drill 2 5/16 holes in the pulley, one here, one there, and then I'll attach my puller to it. And the next hole you drill, you want it to be straight across. It's a bit trickier holding the drill with one hand. So here's my setup. The 2 holes I drilled, I've got a harmonic balancer puller, and at the other end of the 2 bolts, there's a nut on the other side. So now all I have to do is tighten up the puller. I'm going to try it without heating the pulley first. Hopefully the pulley will slide down. If not, I will apply heat to the pulley right here. We'll try this by hand first. And I don't think this is budging at all. No, this pulley's not moving. Okay, I better get out the acetylene torches here. These are a necessary evil in any repair shop. Now I want to show you here that I also put a small bolt inside the crankshaft hole here to protect the end of the shaft. Okay, now I'm going to heat up around here on the pulley. I'm going to have my impact ready with the socket to just drive this puller in. Before you do this, make sure you've got a fire extinguisher ready, because you never know what can happen. Now I try to get the flame as little as I can, and watch where your flame deflects. You don't want the flame to be deflecting on the other parts. Watch that. This tractor had an oil leak, so it's even more susceptible to catching on fire, so just keep that in mind, guys. I'm gonna try it now. I don't think it's going to move, but no. So what I try to do is heat this up until it kind of glows red if you can. It just makes it easier for the metal parts to separate. Again, be very careful you don't set the machine on fire. So it's starting to turn red. Just going to turn it over a bit here. I could see it catching on fire, that's why I sprayed it. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, so I do see the pulley moving. There we go. So I'm kind of glad this happened here, guys, because I could have done the belt replacement. This would have come off easily, but then the next guy watching the video might run into this problem. So if you do, this is what you will have to do to get your pulley off. And in the process, you will sacrifice your pulley. So when you put this back together, make sure to get a new pulley. So here's the old pulley. This is how I had it set up in there. It works great. And because this is such an issue, common issue here in the shop, I actually keep this pulley in stock all the time. And here's the part number. It's MTD part number 7560639A. And I will put a link under the video to where you can buy one of these online. Okay, now what I need to do is just clean this up a little bit first before I put the pulley and the belt. But first of all, on this machine here, in order to get the belt in properly, you must remove this little 3/8 bolt here with a shoulder kind of like this one. And that's what this bolt looks like. It's got a little shoulder that goes over it. So I'll just wipe this up a bit. Lots of oil from that leak. So you don't want that oil to get on your new belt, that's for sure. So to get started here, I'm going to put the belt right through here. Then it's going to come right over here. And now what I'll do is get the pulley on. Now when you get this pulley, one side protrudes more than the other. So you see that? Now what you want is the side that protrudes out the most to be downwards. So this is how it's going to go on. And then you're going to have to line up the key on the pulley to the keyway on the shaft. And what I do is I get the belt on the pulley first. Now the pulley's a bit stiff going in, so I'm just going to put a big socket that goes on the pulley here. There, it's in all the way now. And here's a close look. And now I'm going to put this little bolt back right in this hole here. Now this bolt will end up being in between the belt. So one side of the belt, that side of the belt, bolt right in the middle. Okay, so now what I need to do is get this belt installed on the back pulley. So I'm gonna have to bring the machine back down, take the battery out, and show you what to do next. So now let's get the seat up, disconnect this battery. And the battery's coming completely out of the machine here. Now this battery cover will come off. You just squeeze it and it pulls right out. Now if you look inside here, you can see the other belt I was telling you that looks like it's been replaced. That belt's still good, and it's much easier replacing just the top belt than the belt I'm doing today. But to replace the belt I'm doing today, I have to remove this belt here. So what I do, because it's so tight in there, is I remove the top pulley here. I think it's a 15/16 socket you'll need. Actually, the socket you need to remove that bolt or nut is 22 millimeters. And if you have an impact, it's the best way to remove it. It's quick. Get that nut out of there. And now the pulley is going to pop right off its grooves here. So basically what you want to do is free up the top of this pulley, because the belt we're installing is going below here, and then the other belt goes on the top pulley as you just saw. So now I'm retrieving the belt that I installed here just now. Now what I want to do is get this belt on the bottom part of the pulley, so that's kind of like two pulleys into one. So what I do is I go right down to the pulley, grab the bottom part, lift it up so that there's enough room to get the new belt in between the belt keeper and the bottom pulley. So you see there how I got the belt on the bottom pulley? And now what you want to do is just turn the pulley or spread the belt down. There, I'm going to get that belt on there. Okay, here's another view. I've got the belt on the bottom pulley. It's a bit tricky. This might be the hardest part of the whole repair here, but make sure it's in there correctly. And then the other belt goes on the top part of the pulley. That's the previous belt, that's the shorter belt. And the belt that goes on the top pulley goes to that pulley over there, just ahead of the machine here, or the transmission. And now what you have to do at this point is get your pulley back in. Now you have to make absolutely sure you get this belt on that pulley before you put it on the transmission shaft. Now if you want to release the pressure on this belt, there is a spring underneath you can disconnect. This spring right here, you could disconnect it from the body so there won't be any pressure on the belt. It might make it easier for you to reinstall the pulley. Today, however, I'm going to do it with it still connected. And when you line up the pulley, you got to line up the notches on the pulley to the notches on the transmission. Just like that. Now get that nut on there as quick as you can. And now I'm just going to grab a breaker bar, get my socket on there, hold the pulley and just tighten up the nut. And just use common sense, guys. I don't really know the torque specs, but all I can tell you is it's got to be fairly tight. Now I'll just do a last visual inspection on the back. All the belts are on. Now I can put the battery back in here. Get the battery in. What I'm doing here, guys, is cleaning the clutch off because it is filthy dirty. I'm using old gas here, so if you do use gas, be super, super cautious. And then with a brush, it does a really amazing job. And now what I do after that is I just air blow it. And I'll even put a bit of anti-seize so we don't get a seized PTO clutch next time. And by the way, this is the anti-seize that I'm using. Okay, I think the worst part of the job here is past. Now I got to get that PTO clutch back on. And I also need to show you how to reroute the belt. So the first thing I'll show you is how to properly reroute the belt here. So it just goes in like that. And like this. And the way it works is when you push on the drive pedal, which is right here, it engages the drive, it tightens up the belt. So it's a simple system, but it works really good. Now I'm going to reinstall the PTO clutch, and what you have to take note of is the key inside it right here, because it has to line up to the keyway hole on the crankshaft right here. But before you put the clutch on, don't forget that there is a washer that goes right here between the pulley and the PTO clutch. Get that bolt in here as quick as you can. Now I'm just going to start up the bolt with the impact and do the final tightening by hand. Now if you don't have an impact, what you can do is pop this off, and then what you do is you put a ratchet and a socket on the flywheel nut or bolt, and that will help you to tighten it up or loosen the PTO clutch bolt without the engine turning. So I just popped it out of the little things here. On some other engines like the Briggs, you'll have some 5/16 bolts that you'll have to remove. So now what I'm going to do is hold this ratchet on the flywheel bolt and then reach down with my other ratchet and socket and tighten up the PTO clutch. And again, I don't have the torque specs for the PTO clutch, but put it fairly tight, guys. Now on this motor here, this just pops right back in. And to get it off, just pry it up with a screwdriver. Now before I put the deck on, I cannot put this part here back, but I want to show you this now, because once you put the deck on, you'll need to put this on. And when you put the belt keeper on, you also want to make sure that it locks into the clutch here. So this is how it's going to go. It might be harder for me to show you once the deck is on, but that's how it's going to go. And then it bolts up at the top, comes down, and goes into one of the holes here. The other end goes right through this hole. Now if you don't put this part in back properly, what's going to happen is the whole PTO clutch will turn and it will rip the wires out of the clutch. So make absolutely sure you put this in correctly. Now before I take the machine down and put the deck on, I'm just going to do one last visual inspection. And don't forget to connect this. I'll do it once the machine's down. Make sure everything's right. Make sure that the bolt here is in between the two parts of the belt. And I always push on the drive pedal like I did earlier to make sure that when I do that, that the belt looks like it's correctly installed, and it does look like it is. And you know what? It's a good thing I did a last check here, because this belt here, the short one on top, had actually come off the pulley. Look at that. So it shouldn't be too hard to get on. There we go. So the reason I often do final visual checks, guys, is because it's so easy to make a mistake like that. Doesn't matter how long you've been doing repairs for, it's just too easy to not see this and then go test out the machine and wreck a belt. I've done it before, I have to be honest, that's how we all learn. So always make sure you do proper visual checks before you're all done. Okay, now it's time to get that deck on. Now if this bar has come off the machine here, you can insert it through here, right through here. And I always put the front bracket on before I get the back brackets on the deck. And the reason I do that is because on this style of front bracket, you have to make sure the deck is far enough ahead so you can get it in properly. Now what I do is I lower the deck arm, and now I gotta move the deck over. Now what you want to do is get this here right over here so the pin goes right in there. Okay, so what you want to do is line this up with this, and then the pin will go right through. And do the So now I'm going to put the deck belt on the PTO clutch. So now I'm going to hook up the PTO clutch plug, run it right through the hole here, and now just plug it in. Now the belt keeper and the PTO clutch keeper, or the thing that stops it from spinning, needs to be installed. This is the part I showed you earlier while I was underneath the tractor. Okay, here's how that part goes on. It goes into a hole here. It locks into the PTO clutch, goes all the way around, and then it's bolted up there with that 1/2" bolt, 1/2" head bolt there. Now the reason this has to be in the way I'm showing you is so that the PTO clutch will lock itself like that. If you don't have this locked into that part, the whole PTO clutch will spin. So this is how you want everything installed here. Okay, let's try this out. Alright, I just want to show you guys what I did about the oil leak here. I just went ahead and replaced the oil plug valve here. The old one just collapsed. And here are the parts right here. And the oil went all over the place. I didn't catch it on video, but it was just a big mess. And here's the rotary part number for the new oil drain valve, 23-6783. There's the Briggs number. And those are prone to fail, guys. So if you do have a machine with an oil drain valve like this, just periodically check it. Make sure it's tight in the engine and make sure the plastic parts aren't brittle and cracked. So I hope my video has helped you guys. And also, I'm glad I got to show you how to remove the seized pulley for the drive belt as well, because sometimes I may make a video, pulley comes off easy, but the guy watching the video may have a seized pulley. And also my video today was a bit longer than normal. Let me know in the comments if you prefer longer videos or shorter videos. Just comment below, let me know that. I appreciate all your feedback. Thanks again for watching, guys. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.